Welcome to the AV Huddle, the place for AV professionals to get the latest news, updates and stories from the leading commercial manufacturers and suppliers. Hear from end users while we dive into new technology, business strategy and innovative ways AV is shaping the sector. Let's jump into the Huddle.
Hi, good morning everybody and welcome to another podcast session with AV Huddle. And today we have a fantastic guest from Bose. But before I introduce him, I'd like to give Louis an opportunity to give a quick intro of himself, please.
Hi guys, my name's Louis. I work for AVM. I've been in the industry for about a year and a half now. I'm a network engineer for the company, so I handle integrating a lot of the AV systems with client networks.
And I'd like to give everybody a brief intro into Andy Wriggler. So Andy Wriggler is head of the professional UK and Ireland for Bose. He's got 15 years of experience, which is amazing. And before I kind of say something, yeah, me too. Before I say something, which I should, I'll probably let Andy tell us more about yourself, Andy, and also what you do at Bose. And what we're going to talk about today is actually the Bose professional products. And maybe you can give us a bit of an insight in terms of what they are, who uses them, what markets they're in for, and we'll go from there. Over to you, Andy.
Okay, well, thank you, Mitesh. Yes, so my name's Andy Wriggler. As I say, as Mitesh said, I'm head of the Bose professional business for the UK and Ireland. Been with the company approaching 15 years. Started off in the world of musical instruments, actually, with the launch of the L1 line array product. I was hired specifically to work in that business back in 2006. So quite a number of years ago, then I transitioned to the manager's role for Pro, which has been super exciting. We've had some really major projects in the last few years, in particular. The areas of business that we work in, traditionally we've worked in things like retail and hospitality, but in more recent years we've moved out much more into things like performance systems, and very much recently we've worked or headed more into the conferencing and workplace market. We see that as a very vibrant and interesting market for the future.
Okay, interesting. So I guess that kind of leads me on naturally, with everything going on. I think a lot of companies have been adapting and changing and being dynamic. And you mentioned they actually touched on the workplace, workspace, depending how you want to say it. So, what was your thoughts behind that? But also, from the customers you've been talking to, where has the adaptation been and where has the change been?
Okay. I mean, certainly from the company perspective, we've been working on, as you can imagine, we research and seek out the potential of different markets all the time. Okay, so this isn't a sudden, should we say, knee-jerk reaction to COVID, but of course it's quite timely given the fact that, for instance, I've been working from home now since March. In these four walls basically since March. So the impetus and the speed of change in how people work has super accelerated this year, because of COVID. And also companies are now realizing that it's a catchphrase, it's the new normal, that companies do no longer have to have the big facilities, the big office spaces, and big meeting rooms that come with that. They don't have to have that in quite the way that they used to, and actually that employees are capable of being productive when they're not in those facilities. That doesn't mean it's the death of those facilities. It just means that the way the office looks or looked at the beginning of this calendar year will be different in the beginning of calendar 21. Because all the feedback from companies that we talk to now is that A, they might not need quite the same space, but B, they need that space to be differently flexible.
Yeah.
Sense. It has to cater for different needs. So gone maybe are the rows of desks of people who turn up to the office to do a job just because hey, the office was based there and you come to the office to work. There's a lot more trust in employees that's been delivered as a result of the COVID situation. So for instance, for us, just in the UK, we've had hardly anybody in the office since March, our facility in Chatham. We have caretaker staff as such to look after the fabric of the building, and we do have some call center staff working there, but everybody else is now working from home.
Okay.
So we're really reimagining what that office is going to look like, for the next 12 months beyond.
So do you see that as an opportunity for growth in terms of what you're offering, or do you find it, I don't know, the opposite side of that, where actually a lot of people are thinking, oh, hold on, nobody's going to the office and we shouldn't really be setting up AV systems in office spaces?
Sure. I think you have to remember, or have to think about what the office is for. The office used to be, especially when I was a young man, many years ago, it was almost a control situation. You would put teams into that physical space where they could be controlled and directed and coached and all the other bits and pieces. But the point was, it was almost like, we've got this team here physically in this space. Everybody knows what everyone else does. Fantastic. There's a unit. That's a business unit.
Yeah.
We no longer need that. So we have to reimagine what is the building, the actual physical building of the office for. And I have a big interest in mental health. And I've just been seeing that actually the office is no longer this control space where a business unit operates, but it could be a collaborative and creative space. So that doesn't mean it's defunct. It just means it's going to need repurposing, so that you go to the office, not because you have to, you'll go because you're going there to be creative, to work on business plans, to collaborate with your colleagues, and also, very importantly, to have that social connection, that human connection with those colleagues. So the office isn't dead, it's just changing.
That's definitely something I've seen a lot more of. It's like an open plan situation. Everyone is able to quite easily communicate with each other. There's no restrictions, and you're not just bogged down at your own desk. It's not just like you'd see in these older TV shows, someone's at their desk, that's where they are for the rest of the day. It's about it's a social thing, isn't it? It's definitely about people coming together and sharing ideas, and that's the advantage of being in an office at the moment.
And at Bose, we're very proud. We have things what we call essence and values, and those essence and values are all about excellence and passion and respect and such like. And that's hard. Well, part of the essence and values is to drive the wellness of our employees, and if you are so disconnected from an office, for some people that's fine. They're just natural individuals that feel happy and can work perfectly well by themselves remotely. But even speaking personally, I miss my team. I miss the physical interaction. I can see them on Zoom. I can see them on Teams, but I miss physically seeing them, because you get a different level of connection when you're in the same space. But the good news is there will be new technology needed to this is the good news for us guys, is, we're seeing a huge uplift in conferencing tools of all types. And that is only going to continue, honestly, I don't think the boardroom style of meeting space is dead. There'll always be a need maybe for that bigger space, but I can see a lot more need for the smaller collaborative spaces, and certainly the folks who think that because we're working remotely means that business is dead, I think they're wrong. And the company thinks we're wrong. We're investing heavily in providing in the future more products to meet more requirements for those sort of, should we say, smaller and more flexible conferencing spaces.
Yeah, it's all about being able to adapt, isn't it? If it's a sign of a good company if you're able to adapt to these new situations and implement these new ideas and ways to conference. If you're bogged down in the past, then you're going to get left behind, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's one of my favourite quotes. It's the old Rupert Murdoch quote. It's not the biggest that will survive; it's the most agile that will survive. And I probably paraphrased that, but basically, it's very, very true. If a company can adapt quickly now, it's all about speed. It's not about size. And those companies that are enormous but cannot change quickly. Just go back to the days of the BlackBerries and the IBMs of this world, and the other companies that were Nokia. These companies that were huge in their day, that haven't retained that sort of scale because they couldn't change quick. And I think there's two elements of pressure on us at the moment. One is the COVID and the sort of macroeconomic thing, but also, speaking as an old guy, I'm seeing the way that young guys want to work. Excuse me. and it ain't the way I worked. You know, there's almost there's a demand from young people coming into our business who, you know, and after all, they're the future, not me. But they want to work differently to the way I was kind of trained as a nipper when I was in my first workplace. You know, youngsters expect different things. They expect tech to help them. They use tech a lot more, and yeah, you know, the companies that are really grasping this and are getting excited by it are the companies that recognize that.
Yeah. Have you got an example of, you know, where you're seeing tech being used in a different manner now with, you know, as you mentioned, the younger generation and the change of dynamics? You know, could you give an example of something?
Yeah, I suppose, I mean, let's go back just a few years. We wouldn't be making calls like this. I know all of a sudden this is normal, you know. It's crazy, you know. When I joined Bose in 2006, you know, even then emails were a thing. Of course they were, but we still used, you know, and the speed of change is so quick. I think the exciting things, I mean, we're working at the moment on I'm talking to you on a camera, you know, in the computer, and that's fantastic. Cameras and computers have only been a thing for a few years. And the next step, I think, is, and again, I'm already seeing this, is VR. You know, there's some uses of VR in the ways, even in calls like this, where you can be immersed in a space. Okay, the person at the other end is guiding that immersion, but you know what I mean. It's so much more engaging than, I mean, if you, a real life example, look at a building development. If you have a VR like run through, and you can actually say to the driver of the VR, because I'm on a laptop at the other end, hey, can you look left, can you look right, can you do this, and I'm getting the video feed. Wow, how does that compare to, you know, a CAD drawing?
Yeah.
You need both, but one engages in a way that's completely different, you know, to the other. You know, one's a technical thing and one's the engagement thing.
Yeah. So how is kind of like sound being used in these scenarios that you've spoke about, you know, with the changing dynamics and workplaces and retail and conferencing suites? You know, where do you see the technology, you know, adapting, in particular related to kind of what Bose is offering from a sound perspective?
Okay, I mean, Bose's philosophy has always been to start off with, you know, what's the problem and how can we make it better? You know, we want to look for a better solution rather than, dare I say it, a copycat solution. You know, history as a company is lined with things like noise cancelling headphones and sound docks for iPods. When remember them?
I think I've still got one somewhere.
Yeah, but you know, we've always want to try and what can we do better? How can we improve our customers' either domestic or business life? So real life example is we've recently launched the Vb1 Video Bar, which is a conferencing tool. The interesting thing from a customer's perspective, when they talked to us about it, they said, well, we know the loudspeakers are going to be great. So in the far end room, we know if that's the listening device, we know the audio quality coming out is going to be great because they trust us enough to, you know, to put some emphasis on that, should we say. But what really worked on is things like our camera and our mic array technology. So if you've got great reproduction at one end, there's no point having it if the recording end, should we say, the far end, the quality of the microphones are poor. And so for the demonstrations, for instance, we've done with the Vb1, we would have been doing it with the client listening on their computer to somebody demonstrating it from the other end to show basically not only have we got an improved audio quality, because how many video calls have you been on where the audio quality is dreadful? And what do I mean by dreadful? Just dreadful when we're static, but let alone when we move around the room. Maybe there's a whiteboard involved, or maybe different speakers are placed in a different, as in people are in different places in the room. How many times have you come away going, I couldn't hear, you know, Mrs. X because the sound was so poor? What we've done is with the Vb1, we really believe that we've put a lot of effort and improved that audio collection, should we call it, experience, as well as the video side of things. To really, I guess what I'm saying is we really think that it's time to move away from, you know, from the cheaper sort of ineffective devices that are out there that, you know, are fine, good, they're of good value, but because they're quite cheap. but we want to give people that premium experience. And, you know, we're really, really hopeful that we can actually bring something positive to this market.
Okay, that's interesting to know. Interesting to know. And where do you say is kind of like at the moment in terms of your current demand? You know, what products do you see the most demand in? And is there a particular reason behind that? You know, I'm trying to get a bit more of a insight in terms of what's going on.
Our conferencing business is new. Our new, you know, the Vb1 Video Bar, for instance, is not yet actually for sale.
Okay.
In the UK, I mean, it's due to be going on sale early calendar 21, so months away. And similarly, we've also adapted our QC700 noise cancelling headphones with a dongle to make them Team certified, Microsoft certified. They're coming shortly. But putting aside the conferencing business, which is new to us, so it's unfair to count it as, you know, we say. What we've seen in the world of Pro, we've seen a huge increase in our small portable products. So Pro is a classic example. We can't make them quick enough. So these are folks who are based at home and need a small audio system. It could have been in the summer for a party in the garden. We've also seen them being used because they're battery powered as well as mains for outdoor gyms. You know, we've seen people working out with some pumping music and a course leader, you know, talking through an S1 on a tripod on a car park. You know, so all these, so our portable business, our small portable business has really grown. The other thing that's interesting is the other key sectors is the standard install sound business is done quite well. We had you know, like every company, we had a dip when COVID first kicked in, and everyone was basically closed. So our retail business is steady. Our hospitality business has improved. The portable side is doing, the small portable side is doing well. And then we've got this conferencing thing coming along.
Wow, it sounds exciting. I think, you know, with everything going on in the world, I think, you know, positive news like this is greatly appreciated. I think more people should kind of celebrate this and say, actually, this could be going on, but let's focus on the positives. And it seems like, you know, business is still booming and things are happening, even though it's slightly changed in certain areas. It's just people are working in different ways from that perspective.
Again, it's being agile, you know, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say that sometimes Bose has been a little bit slow, and some people tell us we've been a little bit slow on occasion. But again, I think the reason we're perceived to be slow sometimes is because we want to see how a market develops and then look at it properly. You know, we don't necessarily want to be we have created our own markets, as I said, with noise cancelling, but sometimes it's good to sort of appraise the market and see where it's going, and then instead of just doing a product that sort of is a slight progression, try and actually, you know, have a proper leap forward in terms of the audio quality, and that's exciting. That's why I'm at Bose still.
No, it sounds really good. And I guess, you know, if somebody was listening to this from them kind of sectors and they're thinking about, you know, video conferencing or sound or DSPs or amps or anything like that, you know, what would you say, you know, if they've got the opportunity to listen to you, you know, what advice would you give them when they potentially considering or thinking, or, you know, something that, you know, you hear a lot and you just wish you would, you know, you could have spoken to them earlier on in the conversation, you know, what advice would you share with them?
You might, if I understand you correctly, Tish, I mean, you might say that I would say this, okay, but it's an old adage, but, you know, buy once and buy properly. Don't buy, you know, if you as in budget properly. One of the frustrations I have at Bose sometimes is I see our products just not breaking. With my salesman's hat on it, I kind of going, wouldn't it be great if I could, a bit like in the world of PCs, computing and such, like, you know, okay, yeah, I know in 5 years I've got that customer again because the technology moved on so much that, you know, I need to sell them the latest, you know, Apple Mac or whatever it is. Yeah. In the world of Bose, you know, our products last and last and last. And so any advice I would say to someone looking to purchase an audio system, no matter who it's from, is do your homework and make sure you understand the full value of the product. You know, whatever your budget, you understand the full value, because especially in commercial situations, if it's installed, you might think it's a cheaper option to go for company X rather than company Y. But by the time it's installed and, you know, the fabric of the building's been changed to allow for these products to then have to change it after 12, 18 months because you're dissatisfied is a huge wrench, you know. So take advice, whichever brand it is, take advice, spend wisely. And I would certainly say, look at the overall value, you know. And we have customers now that are in the budget range of their sectors, as in they're either budget retailers or budget hotel groups, that they buy our product. And you might think, well, why would they spend a bit more with Bose compared to, you know, there are plenty of cheaper alternatives out there. And I like to think the short answer is the value package. You know, our products will last and last. They'll sound great. They'll need less servicing, and you know, and also you have that reassurance, shall we say, of all the servicing that it does go on and behind the scenes support that Bose gives to its customers.
No, it's just it makes sense at the end of the day, you know, thinking about the future and not the short term. Because I think sometimes you can get caught up in terms of, you know, the present moment. But I guess for most businesses, you have to think, you know, to some extent, the long term as well, and factor in the cost of actually, as you mentioned, you know, buy cheap, buy twice, or, you know, pay for quality and actually go where you're going. But ultimately, I guess they need to understand what they want to use it for and where they're going with that.
I can vouch for Bose as well there. In that, I mean, I've been on the help desk here at AVM for about a year now, and in the time I was on there, we never really had any issues come up with Bose products. Never had to send any RMAs off. It's always been very reliable. That's for sure.
Yeah, and you know, and we're fundamentally an engineering company, you know. So what I mean by that is we're driven. I mean, Dr. Bose, his passion was engineering, you know, and teaching. Of course, he's very well known for his lectures and such like. But the teaching came out of the electronics engineering element. You know, that's where he started. That was his passion, and he only went into teaching because he wanted to share that, you know, with the next generation. And we've retained that sort of engineering connection. You know, not many people know, but a lot of people know we're private. You know, we're a private company. We're not public. But not many people know that our biggest shareholder, in a sense, is MIT. So before Dr. Bose passed, he actually gifted 51% of the company to MIT, which is fantastic. You know, because. And they can't vote, they can't tell us what to do, they can't, you know, they have no way of influencing the company in terms of its business. But what they do get in return was two elements. One is we'll remain private, which is great, which means we can then reinvest in development of future technologies. But also MIT get the benefit of, you know, of yearly income from us as should we call it a dividend, you know, of their ownership. And there's no strings attached, which is fantastic. MIT can use that money for whatever they fancy.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
It's a great story, you know, and it shows the genius that was Dr. Bose, really, when he decided, you know, because obviously, you know, as he was getting older and his family weren't interested in becoming, you know, they weren't interested in becoming active in the company, if that makes sense. He probably had in his own mind, you know, what should I do with this company? How do I leave a legacy? And how do I ensure that the company can continue in my vision? And this was like a really clever way of achieving those goals, you know.
No, I think that's really, really fascinating. So is there, I think one thing I don't know if you could talk much about this, but, you know, is there anything that we can share with the listeners in terms of, you know, exciting news ahead? You know, something that they've not read on a blog post or they've heard somewhere, you know, because I know Bose is quite big and quite, you know, strong in the market, and everybody's quite keen to see, you know, what is the latest and greatest. You know, is there something up and coming or something that you can talk about at all?
There's some specifics I can't talk about because, you know, that's the nature. We want to keep a surprise, you know.
yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
And you know, being slightly cynical, we don't want to give our competitors, you know, give away too early. What I can say is we're firmly in the conferencing market, and there is a pipeline of future development in that, and I don't think that's given away too much. Some other exciting things that were launched just this week, in fact, on the 27th of October, we launched the next generation of L1 systems.
Okay.
So I think with the Pro 8, the Pro 16, and Pro 32, they have literally just been launched. The original L1s, these are, bear in mind these L1s have been used in commercial audio situations such as hotel conferencing, as I say, all the way through to the world of rock and roll DJs, etc. But from a presentational tool aspect, they're fantastic. Nothing's beaten them really, because they're so compact, they're so room filling, easy to set up, easy to move. And the new ones are on our website at pro.bose.com now, if anybody's interested, have to look at those. The other technologies that we have already announced that we're now selling is we have a new range of smaller speakers for installation called FreeSpace. And they're already on the market. They replaced our DS range, which I can't remember how many years old they were, but they were, probably 17, 18 years, something like that. Quite an established product. And the new products offer, at a slightly lower price point, features such as IP55, weatherproof ratings. Some of them are EN54 for evacuation use, but at a very keen price point. Then above that, we also launched the Design Max range this year, which is sort of our best solution for those smaller applications. And obviously all these are a range of flush and surface mounted products. Next year, we'll see another loudspeaker system coming out. I'm just going to be as vague as that, but you should know, if all goes well, early part of next year. And that's another product range that is designed to fill a certain need in the marketplace. And as I say, I'll be as, we make speakers all the time, so I'm not away so much.
No, that's fine. No, but to be honest, it seems like you have been really busy, and you've mentioned all these new kind of product launches and upgrades, and the QS1 you're saying coming out next year at some point in the first quarter. So I think there is lots of exciting stuff happening at Bose, especially in the background, but also fairly imminent soon as well, and stuff you've just launched recently. So I think it's quite exciting. And I think there's quite a lot to come, I think, because as you guys are quite agile as well and things are developing, it's quite good. And I guess one question I've got is, obviously Bose are quite agile, and how does Bose get that feedback? Is it, customers speaking directly with yourselves? Was it with integrators? What's the process behind that?
Yeah, I mean, we get multiple streams of feedback. Okay, so obviously, yes, the quickest one and the simplest one is the customer, and the customer in our case, I'm talking about mainly the resellers, so the guys that actually buy the product from us.
Yeah.
Because the end customer, the hotel, they might not actually understand what the technology and what the benefits are of the product. All they'll understand is they've got good audio.
Yeah.
And they probably don't care so much about what went into the thinking behind that product. They want to look at something that looks pretty in their environment and sounds great and wasn't breaking the bank. So that's the end customer. But our resellers are very, very vocal in giving us feedback. Sometimes, feedback that we might not prefer to have, but it's valuable the same. But the other people that are super interesting to us are consultants, because these consultants that specify projects, they have the ability to choose anything they like, whereas a reseller will typically say, I think I'm going to partner with brand X, brand Y, brand Z to have a little bit of coverage. They're not going to have every brand probably, because it's messy, isn't it? Whereas consultants obviously work, from a higher level, look at the project and think, and obviously look at the market in terms of products and think, how can I fit? What's the best thing? What's the best tool? And they've been really good, because over the last few years, we changed our strategy. When we were mainly in the retail world, we would, if I'm being cruel about ourselves in the UK, we'd be order takers almost, we would do account development and business development with accounts, but ultimately we just take those orders of the products. What we've done in the last so many years is actually work the opposite way, in that we've worked with the consultants to drive demand. We call it push-pull, basically. It's the two ways of creating demand in the market. And the thing with the consultants, we might have a reseller, who will say, well, what's on the sheet? And if on the sheet it says QSE, okay, put QSE in. Great brand, by the way. Whereas what we've done is we've tried to work with those consultants and say, what do you need, and what's your feedback? And then, of course, if they're giving us the right signals that we've got to fit will actually say, well, let me introduce you to this product because this could be useful to you as a consultant. And that's really useful because, especially on larger projects, we're now feeding that funnel, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Where we're on specifications, and in the world of conferencing, things like the 1280C, which is a DSP platform with everything in it, basically all the different types of interfaces you could need in that marketplace, and Dante at a good price point. You know, think that's been such a fantastic product from a consultant's point of view, because they go, I don't have to worry about so many SKU codes with different variations if I want PTSN or VoIP or whatever. All I need to worry about is that one SKU. And when I'm making a specification, that makes my life simple. And, you know, I think we're all that way inclined, aren't we? We're all inclined to say, just make my life easy, please.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's a bit like Uber, you know, ordering a taxi. It was never that difficult, but just made it easier. No, I think that's quite fascinating, actually, where you've taken that approach of getting that feedback, you know, from the right audience. And actually, you've not just created a product which is all around your audio quality, which is you do anyway, but you've in that particular scenario there, you've talked about specification, where you've made life easy for the consultants to specify a product, which is actually a great kind of value add service to consultants. And I think that's a classic example of great feedback and doing something about it as well. Well, that's just really interesting. Okay, I think I'm kind of running out of questions now. You know, is there a question maybe, you know, somebody's never asked you before, but you wish they did, and you know, you wish you had this opportunity to talk about it?
Ooh, now you put me on the spot, Mitesh. You know, I suppose I don't have a quick answer to that one, but let me give you an example that's of frustration, shall we say, and then there's a question on the end of this, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Well, the frustration is Bose is it's a huge global brand, and we're so well known for the CE stuff. The question that frustrates me, if I can change your question,
go for it. Yeah.
One of, I never knew, or does Bose make professional audio? You know. Yes. And because we're swamped by the CE brand, the consumer electronics brand, that's the brand everybody knows. And so the question, or rhetorical question, could be something like, well, I didn't know Bose made, you know, or a statement really, isn't it? I didn't know Bose made, you know, professional stuff. When we have that moment with a customer, it's great because we can then, you know, lever the consumer brand, because we can say, well, have you got Bose in your kitchen? Have you got a Wave radio? Have you got a set of noise cancelers? Have you got a set of sports in ears? Things like that. And if they go, oh yeah, that's from a salesman's point of view, that's such a lovely pivot point where you can say, well, actually, we're in this venue, that venue, this venue. We do this. We work with these hotel brands, similar to yourselves. You know, you might be a hotel brand, and we can rattle off all the big names that you know. So the question of, does Bose make something for my hotel or for my shop? That's a great question.
No, I see what you mean. Yeah, because I guess, you know, if I put like my consumer hat on, that's what first people think of. You know, that your general kind of, you know, audiophile kind of technology. You know, the great sounding speakers and headphones and, you know, stuff alike. And
I've just thought of the question that you want. And
the question
is, when would you like me to deliver your new Porsche Cayman GT4? No one's ever asked me that question. If you want to facilitate that, please do.
I'm sure that can be arranged at some point in the future. I guess it depends how many sales you do. No, I think it's fascinating, really. I think, you know, people don't think, or maybe I'm talking for myself here, but in terms of audio technology, I think, you know, people just see it as just pure sound. But I think there's more to it than sound, because it's all the stuff that goes in the background to actually get that pure, simple, authentic sound as, I guess, crystal clear as you want.
And, you know, when you look back at the history of Bose, and a lot of this is online now on YouTube and such like, I mean, we've developed over the years, even since I've joined the company, we've worked on car suspension systems, and it all comes down, car suspension systems, seats for trucks. We had, quite a number of years ago, it was sold off, but we had a whole industry, a whole division, I should say, that was around medical measurement tools. You know, a company called Electroforce. There's all these other things that we've done. That's all based upon curiosity, really. It's all based upon what can I do. I've got, again, Dr. Bose was fantastic at this. He would basically say to, obviously, certain people, not everybody, they come up and go, Dr. Bose, I've got an idea. I think I could do this. And he would just go, fantastic, off you go. You know, and we have a man shed and lady shed in America, in head office in Framingham, and you go in there and you can do whatever you want. Literally whatever you want. There's the materials there, there's the machines there, there's 3D printing, there's everything, metalworking shop. And the idea of that is to spark inventiveness and for something different. I haven't got one here to hand, but if you know the Soundlink Mini, the little small Bluetooth speaker, that was a bestseller of ours. That came off the back of an idea of how small can I make one of these devices, yet at the same time produce good audio quality. And they were built like brick outholders as well. They're absolutely solid as a rock. You know, they're fantastic bits of gear. I think that's the thing that Bose needs to keep going, is that spirit of inventiveness.
No, I think that's fascinating. That's great. I think companies like that actually do tend to, I guess, grow and actually help customers because they're solving real problems and challenges, being creative and having that, I guess, room to play. And I was gonna say mess around, but it's not really messing around. It's kind of coming up new ways for problems.
Not messing around in a silly sense, but sometimes messing around in a what if sense. You know, what if I do this? Will that work? And an area that's really exciting for the company is the area of greater wellness, you know, and recently relaunched the sleep buds. Unfortunately, the first set had some battery issues, well known, it's all very public now. And because they're individual earbuds, you know, if one side is not going so well, it's not so good for the customer. So again, Bose being the right company, or the best company when it comes to this type of approach, they said, no problem, all the customers who bought them, full refunds, and we've relaunched them now with the new battery technology. That's exciting, you know, helping people sleep better, exercise better. Yes, in my world, Bose is in the O2 Arena, for instance, as the house system. So hear a show better. In my world, things, you know, work better, sleep better, better health, better enjoyment of live music or recorded music. All that, that's the DNA of the company.
I think that's fantastic. That's amazing. And I think it's great, I think, to hear this, because I think sometimes when you, I don't know, go on a website or you hear things other places, you don't get to learn about this in depth, about the background and history and the story and actually where some of the products come from and the inventiveness and I guess the value behind the company. So I think it's great to hear about that. I think really, really good. And I hope maybe one day one of these sheds comes to the UK and maybe maybe people outside of Bose can have a play around.
I've been to Framingham, which is just outside of Boston. We're head offices a few times there, and again, one of my colleagues might correct this, but I believe it was an old manufacturing facility that they turned into this workshop basically, and it's absolutely enormous. It's a factory, you know.
Wow.
But it's just being given to employees to use their imaginations, you know, and you don't have to be thinking about Bose. You know, people can go in there and do stuff for the home. That's the point of it. It's a facility to be used. But of course, you know, it all sparks learning and development of individuals, and trying out new things. You know, just seeing what can we do. So are you guys kind of maybe working on future technology where, you know, you can implant a chip in a mind and it kind of produces sound, you know, with that? Well, we've launched recently a new range of our frames, which are sunglasses, and they use little loudspeakers here, so they're Bluetooth. And someone said to me, well, why don't you remove the electronics from there and just straight into someone's skull? It's interesting. I mean, we did a product, I'm not sure if it's still around in the CE world, that actually sat on your shoulder, and you could hardly hear it from a distance, but the person was fully connected with the audio, and it used the chest cavity to help with the bass. You know, so the way that you can hear when you close your ears or your mouth, you can still hear your voice through your head. Well, this was the physical structure of the body to help produce a rich sound.
Yeah.
It's so small. Stuff like that is fascinating, you know. We are, I mean, a couple of things are happening as a bigger thing, a bigger picture. The Internet of Things is obviously a thing.
Yes.
You know, your fridge will soon be networked, basically, so you can see what's in there and you can see how, you know, the temperatures are running out. We know that's going to happen. You know, we know everything is going to be interconnected. So certainly the wearables market is something our CE colleagues are really working on. Wearables of different types, you know, from I know, you know, Apple maybe have the watch, the iWatch or whatever. Whatever it is, there's going to be smart wearables, and I'm sure Bose will be, you know, at the forefront of developing new wearables.
Yeah, because I always find it quite clever where sometimes you got the pro market and you got the consumer market, but actually technology can be quite interchanged. You know, like you see a lot of stuff from the pro market filtering down into the consumer market, but vice versa. If there's a big volume uptake in the consumer market, people are using them devices in the kind of pro market naturally. But then you think, actually, you know, can we actually make it more specific and geared towards this? And you think there's an idea there or a perception there. So I think it's quite smart how companies like yourselves can do that. Yeah. So let's. So
big example, the Vb1 Video Bar. You know, the audio aspect of that, in terms of, because it looks like a soundbar for your telly. I've actually got one over here. It's a prototype. So if I can grab it without wrecking my desk, this is, I have a prototype. So there it is. This is being a prototype, one of them. But it's a soundbar, yeah. So if I pull back a bit, and you can see the form. Now the technologies that are in that were developed for the consumer soundbar market. So the audio, the speakers, I'm talking about the amplifiers, they have a direct lineage back to consumer electronics. Obviously the mic array and the cameras is new, as is all the sort of the infrastructure behind it to make it work on the likes of Teams and Zoom, etc. There's quite often that sort of cross-pollination between the Pro and the CE world. Some of our speaker technology, for instance, how we can get deep bass from small speakers in Pro products, you know, that comes from development work across the whole speaker piece, both CE and Pro. And like the new L1s I mentioned earlier, they've got what we call racetrack drivers in, which, you know, a normal woofer would be, you know, round. Yes. We're used to round speakers. They're racetrack shaped, as in they are like an oval.
Wow, okay.
And they deliver in a small format. They then deliver, for instance, make sure I get this right because I've just learned this. The sub 1, which is the smaller of the two subs, you know, has a racetrack driver in, but it delivers the same punch as a 12-inch, and the larger sub 2, a 15-inch. But they're much easier to carry because they're in that sort of tall, thin shape rather than the big round shape.
Yes.
The cabinet, you know, the form of the cabinet is the shape of the speaker. And stuff like that is just great because you just kind of go, you look at it, you think that can't work, but then it does.
No, that is amazing. That's amazing. And like with everything going on, you know, how kind of inventive and open Bose are. Do you do like collaboration projects, or, you know, if a consultant or a customer came towards you and go, actually, I've got this particular challenge, or maybe they've got an idea, like a crazy fire idea, could they come to you and say, look, I've got this idea, can we talk about it?
The short answer is we're always listening. Of course we are. And I do know that certain companies have directly interacted with our research and development team on certain projects, providing feedback. And some have been invited at, you know, early stages to I mean, we always try and get opinion, you know, before we even if it's on the quiet, if you know what I mean, you know, we don't necessarily flag out what we're going to do and ask for opinions, because you get every opinion then. But what we certainly do is we certainly say, look, you know, we're thinking of going down this path. What do you think? You know, this particular path. What do you think of it? So that's kind of, it's really important to us that we get that opinion. We do have forums, you know, on web where people can interact with us, and on occasion have been directly asked, you know, especially in the musicians market, what features would you like on the next product? But obviously what we try to do, we're very deliberately, as you'd understand, quite selective on who we chat to, because we want to make sure, they're valuable to us, and we're not wasting their time as well. But also we want to make sure that that we have a degree of, should we say, control over what we're developing, so that the cat's not out the bag before we're ready to reveal. But we do get some crazy things sent to us, crazy ideas that you look at it on paper and you just go, this is completely bonkers. But actually sometimes you can look through the bonkersness and you now that bit that bit down there in the mail is really useful. Actually, that's something that the rest of it's kind of, we still get asked, for instance, to have wireless mains powered amplifiers, and if you go back to your physics class, that at the moment that size, we can send signals wirelessly, but we can't power wirelessly. And so we still get that. Why don't you Bose make a 5,000 watt power amp, which can run wirelessly? Well, you'd fry if we tried it, what I mean?
Yes.
The level of signal across the air. But anyway, so always listening, always happy to chat to people, and that's me personally as well as the company. Sometimes we appear to be not listening, but that's for simple reasons of wanting to be protective of what we do. Sometimes we've been accused of being slightly aloof as a result. I kind of say, well, actually, the easiest thing is to be a keyboard warrior. And the hardest thing is when you sit back and think, okay, I've got an idea, I'm going to make one of these things. All the processes that then go on, all the development processes, all the people processes, all the management processes, the costs, sometimes you just cannot risk that. If you're going to successfully bring a product to market, you cannot risk it leaking out or being diluted by many opinions,
I see what you mean. No problem. No, I guess that kind of brings us to the end, really. And first of all, we should say thank you very much, Andy, for coming on board. And it's been fascinating talking about all this with you. And I think there's so much going on. And if somebody does want to learn more or get in touch, what's the best way for somebody to do that?
Okay, so if I give you a couple of websites to start with, if you're interested in the consumer end of our business, we have a consumer website, which is simply bose.co.uk, nice and easy. If you're interested in our professional business, we have a dedicated separate website, and that is simply pro.bose.com. If you wanted to email us, or I can give you my personal email as well, but our email in the UK is pro_UK@bose.com. So nice and easy again. So it's pro_UK@bose.com. And if anybody wants to send me money, it's it's Andrew, ANDREW _Rigler, which is spelled RIGLER @bose.com. So there we go. Various ways you can badger me.
No, thank you very much. And what we'll do is we'll put all the information in the comments box below, so everybody's got access to that as well. But no, thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Louis, for co-hosting this with us, and thank you very much, Andy.
Okay, thank you very much, gents. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the AV Huddle. Don't forget to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to get the latest AV updates. AV Huddle, powered by AVM Solutions.